Thank you, Steve.
So Trudy, in addition to our usual group, we've got Corey Speaker, Mark Holdcamp, and Mark Wicks. They're on so far.
Thank you.
And we've got all the council members. We've got Mayor. We've got John Fallis, Brad Sloter, myself.
Okay, thank you so much.
Trudy, you look a lot better than normal.
Thanks, Jerry.
All right. Well, let's call this meeting to order. We have any citizen or public comments tonight from anyone? Hearing none, I'd like to welcome everyone to tonight's meeting. The consideration of the approval of the agenda.
So move.
Second,
Clerk will call the roll.
Starr,
Aye.
Jaeger,
aye.
Friesman,
Aye.
Pittman,
Aye.
Knighton.
Aye.
Agenda approved. Next, we have consideration of the minutes of the January 4th, 6th, 7th, and 11th meeting.
So move. Second.
Questions on those minutes? Call the roll.
Jaeger,
Aye.
Friesman,
Aye.
Pittman,
Aye.
Knighton. Starr.
Aye.
All right. Minutes are approved. Next is consideration of approval of the consent calendar. Anybody have any questions or comments on the consent calendar?
So moved.
Second.
Is that Keith and Phoebe?
Star and Pittman. Yep.
Say that again. Who was it?
Keith, Star, and Phoebe. You're right.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so any questions on the consent calendar? Clerk will call the roll.
Friesman,
Aye.
Pittman,
Aye.
Knighton.
Aye.
Starr,
Aye.
Jaeger.
Aye.
Right. Business of the mayor, I mentioned at our last meeting that there's a group that's going to be, or between the Lions Club and Community Revitalization, designing a city flag for a Lions Club project, and they want to have the public submit entries for that, and then have a group judge those entries and narrow it down to 5 entries, and then have those 5 voted on by the public, either the entries as submitted or a combination possibly of entries to make one particular flag. It was suggested that myself, Steve, and a council member be part of a group of about 12 people that would judge these entries. Steve has said he would like to be on that committee, and I will be on it. What it will involve, the deadline for submitting the entries is March the 12th. And then they want to have a decision made by March the 26th. So somewhere in that 2-week period from March 15th to March 26th, there'll be probably about, I would say, 4 meetings or thereabouts of that group, whether live or by Zoom. And so if any council member is interested in being on that committee, I would put you on there. If you're not, that's fine too. I think there's plenty on the committee, but if somebody really has an interest in that, now is your time.
Mayor, if you need a council member on there, I'd be willing to do that.
Okay. Good. Okay, I will put down Phoebe for that. Thank you. The only other mayor's business I have. I just forwarded to all of you about 15 minutes ago, the Fox newsletter from this month that we got. There's a feature in there about the Charles City reed beds and our new project. Kind of explains that whole process, which I thought was, I learned something just by reading it, but it's just nice to get the Charles City name out there on the internet. So forwarded that to all of you to take a look at that if you have an interest.
Is that the same one that Steve sent out earlier today?
I don't know, is it, Steve?
I would guess it is.
Okay, I
Yes.
didn't see that Steve had sent it out, so now you've got two versions of it. I guess Steve didn't send me a copy, so I didn't know he'd sent it out.
You should be on my mail list.
Okay, I didn't see one from you.
Read them both. Make sure they're the same.
Yeah, could be. All right, well, let's move on. Steve, we're just trying to take care of you guys.
That's right.
All right, well, let's move on then to consider resolution 121, approving the facade application for 204 North Main. I see Mark is on with us tonight. Mark, do you have comments here?
You bet. Good evening. This is an application by Dr. Angela Van Gelder. Just making sure she's not on. I invited her to join us if she was able to tonight. She is opening up the Cedar Soleil Med Spa inside of Main Street Drug at 204 North Main Street. She has applied for a facade improvement application for $564.08 for signage on the front and back of the building, as well as the doors for the new business. Total project cost is $1,128.15. She has submitted the required paperwork. The facade improvement grant is exhausted for this year. So with the council's approval, we will dip into the Culture and Entertainment District Fund as we have done earlier this year for this amount. Again, $564.08. Any questions?
Well, we've discussed it before and I think it sounds good. I move.
Second.
And I would second. Thank you for typing that again, Mark. I appreciate that.
You are most welcome.
Trudy, I think Phoebe beat Keith to the punch on that second.
Okay, I thought so too. Thank you.
Any other questions on this application? Clerk will call the roll.
Pittman,
Aye.
Knighton.
Aye.
Star,
Aye.
Jaeger,
Aye.
Friesman. Delane, did you
Delane?
say anything?
I think he's frozen.
Oh, no.
He's frozen in time.
He's been frozen for years,
Delane, frozen in posterity.
that age.
For all we
We're
know,
all having a heck of a time.
for all we know, he probably froze 5 minutes ago. He was very stoic.
When he gets back on live, we'll see if he has a vote. But so far, we're passing anyway, so
Okay.
there he is.
I said aye, but I just got a notice that my connection's unstable, so.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
What
I
about your
thought you were
internet?
Stable, Delane.
Yeah. Oh, so do you have all your votes there, Trudy? Do
What's that, Mayor?
you have all your votes?
Yes, sir, I do. Thank you.
All right. So Mark, we can proceed with that project then.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next then is the other Mark Holtkamp and his project. We'll consider resolution 221, approving the development agreement with Birkwood Village and authorizing the annual appropriation of tax increment payments. Discussion.
So this is the ultimate development agreement between the city and Mark Holtkamp or Birkwood Village, Charles City LLC. And this is for the incentives for the construction of the what's going to be an 82 unit facility now, independent living, assisted living, senior care, memory care, skilled nursing center to go up there on South Main Street. As we discussed at our workshop last week, we were waiting on the parcel information to get finished, which we'll be taking action on next. That's been completed, and so now we have a project that's ready to go. We spent some additional time between Mark and myself and the county assessor and their appraisal team to kind of go through and make sure that we had the best understanding of what the value of that building is going to be when it's completed. And as we discussed, there's really two ranges for value that the assessor had shared. And that is in your packet this week. You probably saw at the end of that PDF. So one's either about a $10.2 million assessment on the high end, low end, $9.2 million assessment. So somewhere between those two is where it's likely going to be. So even if you figure the high end assessment and you figure in a small increase each year in what that assessed value may be over 10 years, you come up to 1.993 million, almost 2 million on the nose, as it so happens. And when we first looked at this last July, when we held our public hearing to adopt this project into the urban renewal area and approved it, and then we held our public hearing on the development agreement itself, we discussed this being a total $2 million rebate, which is essentially 100% of the taxes that can be rebated back through TIF for this project. So this project is going to be deemed a multi-residential project. So you already have that rollback that you'll have in place. And then you take that, you remove the debt service levy, you're left with that last portion that could be rebated. And just to share your screen, this is the one I'm referring to. It's kind of the base estimate we worked off of. So total rebate here about 1.993. The agreement says $2 million. So that's $2 million or 10 years, whichever comes first. And so that will be the incentive for constructing that facility. There are some jobs that are tied into that. I believe it's 20 full-time jobs that come into play there. We've got construction will start this summer, I believe, is the hope and plan, with it being completed by December 22. Maybe a little bit after, but thereabouts is kind of the idea. I think those are the main points.
Steve or for Mark is also on the meeting.
What's that?
I say Mark is also on the meeting, so any questions for Mark or yourself?
I think you laid it out pretty good, and that you've got the $2 million cap, so we know where we're at. I think it'll be a welcome addition to Charles City, plus bringing new jobs.
The only final piece of the puzzle we're missing here is the site plan, which we'll have once the project gets a little bit, once he starts doing the blueprints and the final layout, and we'll have the actual site plan to put into this agreement. But what I included in the packet was a site plan of the Toledo project that he recently completed, just to give you a kind of an idea. Ours will be a little bit different, just based on the layout, but otherwise everything is squared away and ready to go. So
This is Delane. I will so move.
Second,
Further discussion?
Can you give me a little clarification on clause number 6, the employment requirements? It says not less than 20 full-time positions and 20 part-time positions. Does that mean no less than 40 positions altogether?
that sounds right, Phil. Let me look down. Yes. Yep. 20 full-time and then 20 part-time. And I know Mark had stated he feels that number is probably gonna be closer to 30 full-time, I believe. And yeah, so 20 full and 20 part-time.
Any other questions? We had a motion. We have a motion and a second. Clerk will call the roll.
Knighton.
Aye.
Star,
Aye.
Jaeger,
Aye.
Friesman,
Aye.
Pittman. Aye. I need to give my IT guy a raise. He got me going.
Oh, my gosh.
All right. Moving right along then, we'll go to Resolution 321. I'm bringing back up my IT guy is right here figuring mine out too. So, which is a resolution approving the minor plat for the Burkwood Village addition. John, are you covering this one?
Yes. Okay, this is the approval of the minor plat for the project for the senior living facility that we just discussed. Now, the plat, this is located at the southeast corner of 11th and South Main. 11th Street is here on the north side of the subdivision, and South Main is along the west side. And it's a 2-lot subdivision, Lot 1 and Outlot A. And here's the concept plan. We talked about this at the planning session. It's now it meets the definition of a minor plat because there are no extension of city utilities. The interior drives are private drives that will not be city streets. And the large building for the assisted living and skilled nursing and memory care, that's going to be on Lot 1. In the future, the next future phase, this will be the independent living villas, and those are still need to be more. There still needs to be more planning involved with that. So that's why this is being called an outlot. Once that design is or the concept is more fully along, then in the future that can be replatted in a Burkwood Village second edition. Now, the Planning and Zoning Commission, they have reviewed this, and they are recommending the council approve the plat. So we recommend approval of Resolution 321, approving the minor plat for the Burkwood Village addition.
Any questions for John?
John, any streets in this development are the responsibility of the developer? Is that right?
That's correct, Jerry. All the interior drives and roadways, those will be private. They will not be public streets.
The same token, all these sewer extensions and water extensions, are they the responsibility of the developer?
Correct. They will be services
From our connect point, okay.
or private. Yes, they'll be private.
All right. So we should not have any additional costs on it. We've got an adequate sewer and water right up to there so they can connect to it, right?
Yes.
Okay. One more correction or observation. That corner lot there on the northeast corner, that still remains private property? There's a house there now.
Yeah, there's that little corner of it right in the northwest corner of the
Right.
addition. That's not a part of the addition. It remains private property.
It remains private. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
Need a motion?
Yep.
So move.
Second.
Motion is second. Any other comments? Clerk will call the roll.
Star,
Aye.
Jaeger,
Aye.
Friesman,
Aye.
Pittman. Aye. Knighton. Did you say aye, Philip? I'm sorry.
I did. Aye.
Okay.
All right. So that project is We're waiting to see dirt being turned, Mark, so.
Sounds great. We're excited to get going. I appreciate working with you guys. We're excited for a successful project.
Glad to have you, Mark.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Mark.
everybody.
Right, next then is the third and final reading of ordinance 1150, which is allowing a county representative on the Planning and Zoning Board. We discussed this at other meetings. Does anybody want to discuss this one tonight? Explain this, or just any questions?
I'll recap it quick. So, I mean, you know, this came about really in this November, this last year and then more directly, I guess, in December, once we learned that, you know, not only had one of our planning and zoning board members passed away, but another one was going to be moving out of town. So we were going to be losing a commission member. And, you know, over the last, several years, it's been difficult to keep a full group of 7 together on the Planning and Zoning Commission. And so we had that initial discussion about, well, what about allowing a county representative to serve on the planning and zoning? There's as you see in the attachment, we reached out to a number of communities. I heard back from several, and there are a number of them that do have at least one county representative on the board. And what we thought was would be do what other communities have done, where they allow whatever that sphere of influence is. So with us, it's a 2-mile radius. If there's any zoning or projects planned within 2 miles of city limits, the city has some oversight of that, just to plan for future development. So there's a lot of reasons to think, well, maybe this makes sense to have a county representative on here. And we looked at the aspect of we've talked to a number of times about possible annexation, different parts of town. So it really kind of fed into the idea of maybe this makes sense to have somebody on the county that's within that 2 miles be allowed on the Planning and Zoning Commission. And when you look at our Park and Rec Board, our Library Board, our Foster Grandparent, our Housing Board, they all have at least a member on there that's from the county. So we thought this makes a lot of sense. Planning and zoning, they're a legislative recommendation board. Ultimately, that whatever the planning and zoning recommends, the city council has ultimate say over. So that provides a layer of protection. It's different from the Board of Adjustments, where they're more of like a judiciary body, and those 5 members have final say. In that situation, I'd have a tougher time seeing a county representative on there. But for planning and zoning, there's a lot of aspects to it that seem to make a lot of sense. And so that's what led us to proposing this ordinance. I know this is the third and final reading. I guess I haven't heard any thoughts or comments against doing this. So I guess I would recommend that we move forward with approving that final reading.
While I wish we weren't necessarily going there, I fully understand it. So I'd so move.
Second.
Any other comments or questions? Clerk will call the roll.
Jaeger,
Aye.
Friesman,
Aye.
Pittman,
Aye.
Knighton,
Aye.
Star.
Aye.
We will then have the third reading of the ordinance 1150.
Ordinance number 1150, an ordinance amending the Charles City Code of Ordinances, Chapter 24, Section 24.01, Planning and Zoning Commission, by amending the provisions pertaining to residency requirements for members of the commission.
Thank you. Now, do we have a motion to adopt and publish said ordinance?
So move.
Second.
Any other questions? Clerk will call the roll.
Friesman,
Aye.
Pittman,
Aye.
Knighton,
Aye.
Star,
Aye.
Jaeger.
Aye.
All right. Then move on to resolution 421, which is approving the Valero water usage agreement. Steve, you want to lead this one? I see Corey's here too, so.
Yeah. The Valero water usage agreement, for the last number of years, I think 15, maybe 14 total. We had a water usage agreement with Valero, as they were originally started with Verisun with ethanol plant, and the agreement was put in place because they're going to be a high volume user, and we had the lease purchase agreement for them installing the water main that now the city is going to gain possession of and maintain as our main. And so those both came to an end here in December of 2020. And so we're looking to implement a new water usage agreement. And what you see attached is what we've negotiated out with Valero. As you can see on there, since any user over 100 million gallons a year can negotiate a price outside of what's in the code. The code only goes up to that 100 million. So what we've done here is we've negotiated a 2.5-year agreement. So basically 2 months, or the first period will be this first 6 months of this year, which is the tail end of fiscal year 21, and then we'll have fiscal year 22 and fiscal year 23. So they start out at $1.80 per thousand, and then that'll increase by the CPI. And when we were calculating those rate changes in previous years, that's how we calculated it, was based on that CPI of all urban customers. And so we're going to apply that same method here. And before they had a minimum usage agreement of 350 million gallons, and anything short of that, they made up for with payment regardless. We are removing that restriction now. It's the $100 million is the base usage. They're usually right around 350 anyway, so don't see much of an issue there with that. But this new agreement will go into effect retroactively for this last January 1st of 2021. And the agreement, as you see it, Valero only had one suggested change, and that was in the first paragraph of the agreement, and it was in relation to the name Valero and the assignment. So they really had no changes offer to the agreement. So we recommend it for approval.
Any
Steve,
questions? Go ahead.
I have a
Keith.
question. If Valero doesn't use 100 million gallons during those time frames, what rate do they receive?
It'd be the rate that's in the code book, and I think it's 2.25.
Okay,
Or 2.
so it adjusts if they don't reach the 100 million gallon level. That was my question.
They would, they would pay for that difference to bring it up to 100 million, whether they use it or not. They wouldn't pay a higher rate. They would just pay for that usage.
Okay, thank you. I would so move if we're at that point.
Second.
Any other questions? Clerk will call the roll.
Pittman,
Aye.
Knighton,
Aye.
Starr,
Aye.
Jaeger,
Aye.
Friesman.
Aye.
All right. As long as we're talking about water, we'll go to water towers now. And the first is resolution 521, approving the change order number 1 for the water tower painting project. Discussion here. Corey?
Yeah, this is just for, like we talked about at the planning session, change order for just adding Charles City lettering a second time on the tower. It was an increase of $4,500. I guess we're just looking for approval for that change order.
This change order number 1 or number 2?
That's number 2.
Okay,
My bad, sorry.
just thought better make sure we got it straight.
Thank you, Elaine.
I would so move.
Second.
Any other questions? Clerk will call
Say
the
thank you.
roll.
I
Go ahead, Keith.
I'll just say thank you. I think it's totally worth having that word name on there twice. every time I drive by and I see it on there twice, I'm so glad we did that. So that's my 2 cents. Thank you.
Now we'll let the clerk call the roll.
Knighton,
Aye.
Starr,
Aye.
Jaeger,
Aye.
Friesman,
Aye.
Pittman.
Aye.
All right, so we've approved the change order. So now we have resolution 621, which is accepting the water tower painting project.
Thank you. So this is accepting the final project and the final payment. So L&T finished in November. The original contract price was $221,180. There was a complete overcoat of the exterior. They spot cleaned the dry interior for any corrosion breakthrough. They installed the ladder into the wet interior, the overflow gaps, and some other safety features for, I guess, future painting projects. Dixon Engineering was on site throughout the project. They completed all their inspections and services, and they verified that everything was good to go. So total budgeted $221,180, change order at an additional $4,500, and so total project cost was $225,680. Oh, just looking for approval and acceptance of the final project.
So move.
Second.
Second.
Any other questions on the water tower? Clerk will call the roll.
Starr,
Aye.
Jaeger,
Aye.
Friesman,
Aye.
Pittman,
Aye.
Knighton.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, thanks, Corey. We'll then move to resolution 721, which is approving the pay estimate number 15 for ports and construction. John, would this be you?
Yes. Well, work continues on the water resource recovery facility. And this month's pay request, it's rather large, a little over $1.5 million. The way that breaks down, a lot of it is for equipment. 600,000 of it is for oxidation ditch equipment, 300,000 for a generator. Then we had some construction, about 200,000 for the reed bed excavation and reed bed piping, and 100,000 for oxidation ditch and 150,000 for the headworks building. So with this payment, we'll paid Portson a little over $9.7 million of the $17 million contract, so we're over the halfway mark. Fox Engineering, they have reviewed this and they're recommending approval. So we recommend approval of resolution 7-21 for pay request number 15.
John, the generator that's out there, that's a permanent generator out there at that facility, correct?
Yes.
I mean, if you haven't had a chance, the Headworks building, that vertical structure just got put up this last week, so that went up pretty quick. And so those were prefab walls. That's all. You got about a 2.5-story building out there now too, if you drive by and take a look. So
That's second.
Second, any other questions? Clerk will call the roll.
Jaeger,
Aye.
Friesman,
Aye.
Pittman,
Aye.
She said aye,
Knighton.
but I coughed.
Starr.
Aye.
All right, well, nice to know we're over halfway there, huh, John?
Yes.
with paying them at least.
Yeah, at least with paying them, that's right. Okay, next we have resolution 8, 9, and 1021, all dealing with Highway 18 and traffic control. John, you want to just kind of explain all these at once and then we'll vote on them separately?
Sure. Okay, first I'll talk about resolutions 8 and 9. These are really both the same item. It's the traffic device control agreement. that the DOT is wanting the city to approve for the, not for new signals, but basically replacement signals. The first resolution that has to do with the new replacement signals at Clark Street and Brantingham, Clark Street and Brantingham, and then at North Grand Avenue and 4th Avenue. And let me also say that, as I explained at the planning session, these agreements are standard DOT agreements, and they really don't vary them for project-specific circumstances. So some of these don't apply, but Brad has reviewed the agreements. Now, first, let's see, I think, Delane, did you ask about the turn signal phasing, turn arrow phasing at the last?
I think I did, John.
Okay, Mayor, yeah. And so let me share my screen here. What that has to do, let's see, both at Clark Street and at North Grand Avenue is for eastbound or northeasterly bound traffic that want to turn basically into town. If they're like, here's a plan view of the North Grand intersection. See, for the eastbound traffic, if there are 2 cars at the stop line, 2 cars, that the signal head will then actually be a green arrow and a green ball. And the green arrow will turn, will be on for 7 seconds, a minimum of 7 seconds. And as long as cars are turning through the intersection, they'll stay on for 20 seconds. Now, those are just settings, and as we go along, that can be changed and modified to better fit how things are going. But it will be a green ball as well. So if there's a car sitting here that wants to go straight, they'll be able to go through the intersection. They won't block the car that wants to turn left. And that's what that in the agreement, it talks about turning phase, the turning phase. So, and the resolution 921, that has to do with the replacement pedestrian signal at F Street that's there for the school, Lincoln Elementary School. So I'd recommend approval of both resolutions 8 and 9 so that we can get these agreements signed and back to the DOT.
Okay,
Separate motions on that?
I think, yes.
Yep.
I move for 821.
Second.
Any questions on that one? I think John explained it. Clerk will call the roll.
Friesman,
Aye.
Pittman,
Aye.
Knighton.
Aye.
Star,
Aye.
Jaeger.
Aye.
And we'd have a motion for 921.
So move.
Second.
Any other questions there? Clerk will call the roll.
Pittman,
Aye.
Knighton,
Aye.
Star,
Aye.
Jaeger,
Aye.
Friesman.
Aye.
All right, then we'll move to resolution 1021, which is approving an easement for the same project. John, you want to discuss that one?
Yeah, as we talked about at the planning session, these are 2 small temporary easements. And where this is at is for the where the Charlie Western Trail crosses Highway 18, which is just west of L Street on the east side of town. The approaches for both sides, they have to be reconstructed to meet ADA requirements. And that's going to require the contractor to actually go back into the trail property. Not very far. This on the north side, it only goes back 7 feet, and on the south side, it goes back 8 feet. This is a little bit different for the agreement because there was some confusion on the deeds, and one deed shows the Area Development Corporation as the owner, and another deed shows the city. And the reason the DOT, they need these easements right away, and because the project will be let next month. And I talked to Brad about this, and that easements are temporary. They will not be recorded. So they won't, at the end of the project, they'll just terminate. And Brad felt that since they're temporary, they won't cause any future title issues if the easements are written in both the ADC's and the city's name. The DOT agreed with that. And so that's how the agreements were written. And we will, because as Brad described, these trail deeds he called them messy, and it's going to take a little bit of time to clear this up. And so since these easements need to be granted right away, that's why we're moving ahead with the way they're written in both the ADC's and the city's name. So I'd recommend approval of resolution 1021, approving the temporary easements.
So move.
Second.
Any comments on this resolution? Clerk will call the roll.
Knighton,
Aye.
Star,
Aye.
Jaeger, Friesman,
Aye.
Pittman.
Aye.
Right. Let's then move on to resolution 1121, which is the contract for the demolition of the house at 806 North Grand. Discussion here.
Sure. Okay, this is the house, 806 North Grand, the city acquired last year. It's in very poor shape, and really the only logical thing to do really is to demolish the building. So, but what we did, we put together bidding documents for this, and what we'll do is take out demolish the house and the detached garage. We'll clear this site and have a nice level site that will be available for infill development. Now, we did have we sent bidding documents out to interested contractors, and we received 8 bids last Thursday. Here's a copy of the bid tab, and had some issues with the on the bid tab that was included in your packet. You'll notice down at the bottom there's completion dates, and what we did not in the contract, in the bidding documents, we didn't actually specify a completion date in order to give the contractor a little bit more flexibility in hopes of getting better bids. What we did, in the documents, we said the city's intent was to have a cleared site by April 5th, and that the bidder was to include a completion date. So that would be a part of the contract. And of the 8 bids, Pop Excavating out of Osage, they were low bidder at $12,550. And then we had a second bid at $14,500, and one Cam at third. He was third place at $17,200, and you'll see it went all the way up to $56,000. So we had a wide range of bids, but with that grouping there at the bottom, that 12.5 is a good bid, and it is a good bid, especially when you consider 7 years ago in 2014, when we demolished the house on Wright Avenue. That bid was $14,400. So this is a good bid. So, and of course, we've worked with Pop on many projects. So I'd recommend approval of 1121, awarding the project and approving contract and bonds to Pop Excavating.
I'm so moved.
Second.
Anybody have any questions?
I just have one item of discussion. I think we paid $15,000 for this property. So by the time it's done,
About
Is that right?
13.5, I think.
was it? Okay, so by the time we're done with it, we'll have $25,000 to $30,000 invested in it, which I'm not complaining about. I think we need to get rid of it, but it gets expensive to get rid of these properties. I'd like to see, and I know we've talked about the more accountability with the property owner when we get to this point on these properties. That's just a statement. We'll leave it there.
Right, this property, I don't think you had that accountability question, kind of. But I don't disagree if you think they're real cash wealthy, but at the same time, we'd like to move these things on down the road.
No, I agree.
And they damage the neighborhoods, I believe, if we have deteriorating property there. So
Well, we gotta get rid of them. I agree to that. I just hate seeing people walk away from them.
yes.
That's all, Governor.
Okay, any other discussion?
Just mention that the added good news is we have another property that the city is going to be taking possession of that's also on our list for demolition. And so we're going to try and work it together with POP that we can do both of those properties at the same time while they're in town. So we'll see how that works out and how the timing works out. But I think we ought to be able to get that accomplished.
Good. Is that the one on South Johnson or on 15th?
It's on 15th Avenue.
Okay.
Do you have any idea what the resale value will be of the property once it's completed?
No, I guess I don't have a good answer for you yet on that, Philip.
The 15th Avenue one, though, is not nearly as saleable. Is that correct, Steve? Because it's in the floodplain?
Right. Yeah. On Grand, I'm not sure. 15th Avenue, it's in the 100-year floodplain. It might be a buildable lot, but I don't know that because of the floodplain issues that it's a feasible lot. So that might be a situation of looking to sell it to one or both of the adjacent property owners. I'm not sure, but probably won't see a new home going up on that one.
Okay.
Unless I'm wrong, but I think that's kind of where we're at with that one.
Okay. Any other comments? Clerk will call the roll.
Star,
Aye.
Jaeger,
Aye.
Friesman,
Aye.
Pittman,
Aye.
Knighton.
Aye.
Let's move on then to item N, which is a motion on the naming of Yorkshire. We've had some discussion on this before, but I think probably we need some more discussion tonight because I don't know if we came to a conclusion the last time, but Steve, do you have something to say?
Yeah.
Excuse me, you have
We gotta do
item
number
number
M.
M,
We have to do M, Mayor.
Cambridge.
Oh, sorry. Yep, we gotta do M first. The IEDA agreement for high quality jobs program for Cambrex 2020 project, and we just need a motion for this one.
Yeah, pretty straightforward. I mean, they requested a 1-year extension on the jobs requirement because it did take several months longer to get this all finally approved and done. And so Cambrex asked for a 1-year extension. IEDA, the board has approved that. And so they need our approval as well. So I would recommend that we approve the extension for 1 year.
So move.
Second.
Second.
Any other questions on that? Clerk will call the roll.
Jaeger,
Aye.
Friesman,
Aye.
Pittman,
Aye.
Knighton.
Aye.
Star.
Aye.
All right. Now we'll move on to the naming of Yorkshire. John, do you want to lead the discussion on this, or Steve, or who wants to start off?
I'll start it off. So Yorkshire, it's been labeled as Boulevard. That's what the street sign goes as. But as we've learned over the last few weeks and months, really, it's a lot of the official recording is of it as Drive, and so this issue really first came to our attention, I believe, with the census process and how at least one or several people that live out on Yorkshire either were not be able to be counted or so that really brings into question if if any of those homes are being counted or whatnot. So let us into the review and discussion of, well, is it Yorkshire Boulevard? Is it Yorkshire Drive? And if you go, it was originally platted and designed to be Yorkshire Boulevard connected to Lakeshore Drive. And so at some point between platting and recording and that process, it got tagged with Drive. And so a lot of the county records, a lot of information pulled by the post office, the federal government, were pulling that information in as Drive. So you see a lot of official entities refer to it as Drive. Some refer to it as Boulevard. We've had, the Google Maps, and there's about an even split between whether you find it as Boulevard or whether you find it as Drive. We wondered how that may or may not impact the E911 process. So I know John spent a good amount of time with Kathy over the police department researching that. Ultimately, there's no difference either way, whether it should be called one or the other. But what we do want to get is we do want to get a consensus and a direction of saying that it's going to be one way or the other, so that we can follow through with all the entities and all the residents saying this is what's going to be called from here on out. As you know, we took a survey of the area. We got feedback on how many wanted preferred Boulevard, how many preferred Drive. It came back initially pretty strong with Drive, and then this follow-up time there were several more that came back with Boulevard. In our last agenda packet, we had, I was just going to find that here, a letter from a resident there that thought that Boulevard is the way it should be. So, and there's a good amount of indifference, I guess I'd say too, in regard to it. So we really just need to get some feedback from the council as far as, I'm going to share my screen. So here are the final results of the survey we received back: 11 Drive, 5 Boulevard, 3 no preference, 7 we couldn't get in contact with, just on what would your preference be. And so where we left it after the workshop the other night was to put it on the agenda tonight for city council to review it, discuss it. Hopefully somebody makes a motion to go one way or the other. And once we get an approved motion, we will look to draft a resolution for our follow-up meeting next week, or 2 weeks, I should say, and call it that from henceforth. I think that about sums it up.
And if we decide to leave it as Boulevard, we don't need to, there's no action required. It's just if we decide on Drive, correct?
No, I mean, I'd like to see a resolution passed one way or the other, because right now there's a question out there. And so it'd be nice to have documentations stating one way or the other.
Okay.
For the sake of getting it on the table, being it was platted Boulevard, it's signed Boulevard, I'd move we keep it Boulevard.
So we have a second to Jerry's motion.
Second.
Now discussion.
Steve or John, if it were to stay at Boulevard, what can you rehash what changes would need to be made as far as with the post office and census, things of that nature?
Well, I know Trudy happened to reach out to the post office, and they said that they could change it to whatever way we preferred, and they could do it relatively easily. As far as, I think either way, we're gonna have to contact the various entities to let them know of the direction. I can't.
Yeah.
Maybe John or Trudy have a better handle as to the actual process of what that's going to be.
The
Well, I
county,
know-
oh, go on, John.
Well, sorry, Philip, I know I had talked to the assessor's office, because on the assessor's site, the mapping the county has, it calls it as drive. They told me, just let them know. They'll just, you know, if it's Boulevard, they'll just rename it Boulevard. So it's just a matter of letting them know. Just like the post office, we just send a letter to the post office, just letting them know it's Boulevard.
You know, I think ultimately there might be some residents out there who have, it could be a hassle to change paperwork. I also know I grew up on a street that sometimes was labeled street and sometimes was just Matthew, and sometimes it was Matthews, and sometimes it was Matthews Street. We always got all of our mail, all of our bills, all of our census information. We never had, you know, any bank question, anything. I think in the long run, it's probably going to work out okay for everybody. You know, nobody's going to be perfectly happy either way. We saw the results of the survey. So
Phoebe, you're getting into the older generation, but now the government gets picky about it. But regardless of which way we go, people are going to have to change their drive to street or street to drive or boulevard, whatever. So I think being it was platted, it was signed, and there is a boulevard there, that I think that's why I made the motion to stay the same.
So it sounds like to me, if we keep it at Boulevard, then we have to make more changes than if we change it to drive. We just have to change the street sign pretty much. Is that all we would have to change if we went with drive?
We would have to replat it, wouldn't we, Steve? Because it's platted as
Okay.
Boulevard, is that right?
Probably.
I would think so.
So there are-
Brad, you
okay.
can speak up.
We have
Okay.
underlying paperwork to be done.
Yeah, so there are more changes. I mean, there's changes involved with Boulevard also, you know, different things you'd have. Sounds like almost like it's the same amount of work involved either way we go, if that sounds correct.
Well, I don't think it's much change in our work. Maybe the people that live there that are calling it drive would have to change their address to post office box, whatever.
Yeah, and there's a number of those.
You're gonna have it.
Pete Peterson was the one that came and talked to us a couple of weeks, and how he has everything that's in drive. And so, you know, there's going to be some work involved.
So Brad, would there be much involved to change it to drive on the platting?
I guess I don't know for certain that you'd have to replat. But I know staff's recommendation is, you know, since it was platted as Boulevard of record, that we keep it as Boulevard. I guess I'd have to research for sure whether there need to be a replatting process involved to revise or correct the original plat that was filed.
Okay.
I think I would like to follow the staff's recommendation. I can't see that there's an upside for anybody. That vote was about half and half. And if you take those 7 people who didn't vote, you're going to be just about equal on everything. And Boulevard's where we started. Boulevard's what the sign is. And that's what the staff would recommend. And I work very hard to move forward with that if we can. With staff recommendation, sorry.
Any other comments, if anybody?
Just want to get it clear and get it explained clearly, so that way when you have those people on the other side of the issue who want to drive as the name, that we can give them a clear explanation as to why we went with Boulevard versus we went with drive, and vice versa as well. I just want it to be clear, you know, the way the decision or the direction we move in. I want it to be a clear direction, not an indifferent direction, but a clear direction, so that when we go to explain it, or if we have to explain it, that we can give them a clear explanation. That's that's where I stand on it. I mean, I don't feel one way or the other strongly either direction, you know, but I would like to be able to have a clear understanding of how we went, whichever direction we went, so that I can explain that to the residents if I needed to.
Yeah, I would assume whatever our decision is, we would mail a letter to each of those residents telling them what Philip just said. One more question, that little road leading into Yorkshire, that's what's Lake Shore Drive?
Right.
Okay, that's out of the picture, but I
And that
assume
is
whatever our decision is, we will advise all the residents along there.
Right. And John, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think when you get into the definitions of these different types of roadway namings, drives usually have two ways in and two ways in and two ways out. They don't dead end in a cul-de-sac type of thing. And, you know,
Correct.
that's part of it. I mean, you know, it's maybe a minor detail, but, you know, you think Ellis Drive, you know, that's a circular loop. You know, the Yorkshire, you know, Lakeshore Drive, it's very short, but it connects to two different streets. And so,
Yes.
Any other questions or comments? So the motion by Jerry Trudy was,
To leave it as Boulevard.
okay,
And Keith seconded that motion.
clerk will call the roll.
Excuse me. Friesman,
Aye.
Pittman,
Aye.
Knighton,
Aye.
Starr,
Aye.
Jaeger.
So we will leave it as platted. As somebody, I think Jerry mentioned, are we going to send a letter addressed to Yorkshire Boulevard to all these people so that they know the correct name of the street now?
We'll draft a letter together and we'll kind of outline kind of what we talked here tonight, kind of our reasons why we chose that, and we'll send that out to them. And should be good to go.
Okay,
Assuming
very
they
good.
get-
hopefully
assuming
we
they
don't
get
have
the
to hand
letter-
deliver it at first.
Exactly.
Assuming they get the letter, and it's now returned by the post office.
Exactly. And we'll send a letter to the post office in the county as well. And the post office assured us that, you know, they're going to deliver it whether it says Yorkshire Boulevard or Yorkshire Drive. So they shouldn't have any issues with their mail. But, you know, that's the hope.
All right. That moves us on to, have we received any miscellaneous correspondence lately? Nobody?
Nope.
How about any, Brad, any report from you tonight?
Stephen, John touched on it a little bit. The city did obtain title to 312 15th Avenue through court proceedings. We started that in February of last year, so it was a long process, which was slightly delayed because of COVID, but we're happy to reach a successful resolution on that. So we'll talk to the low bidder about potentially getting that demolished in the near future as well.
How is the legal process proceeding on the other property?
The hearing is scheduled for, I believe, mid-April. And the owner does have an attorney. We've been in communications with her. I will follow up with her in the near future too, but our hope was maybe we'd be able to resolve that without a hearing as well. So.
Okay. Thank you, Brad. Trudy, any report tonight?
Just that our next meeting is going to be a budget meeting on Thursday at 5:30.
Okay.
Thanks for the warning.
City administrators report, Steve.
Not much tonight. I will mention Friday morning, 7:30, we have our Southwest Bypass TIF meeting. So Philip and Jerry, just FYI, Mayor, if you want to attend, anybody else, if they want to, well, not anybody else, we can't have a quorum, but we're going to have a meeting. Basic appointment of chair and co-chair and some other minor things, review of the budget.
Appointment of Chairman Phillip. Appointment of Chairman Phillip.
Might be. I think it's the city's turn. You guys have to rock, paper, scissors for it. So that's Friday. If you have a chance, go to the city website, check out the water resource recovery facility department. Dan has been putting videos together. He's got a video that kind of shows a time lapse of the construction of the oxidation ditch area of the wastewater plant. So it's kind of cool, kind of fun to watch that. I think at a minute 55, you see my kid planting reed beds. So, so that's out there. It's kind of fun to see. So, you got that. So Thursday night, like Trudy said, we have our next budget workshop, streets, capital projects, things of that nature. We're real close to having the levy sheet put together. We'll have that for you certainly by Thursday night. And Trudy's gonna get the agenda packets out tomorrow, probably midday. We might even have it by then to give you some idea of where we're at. So that's good. And last thing, I was just let you know that we've been kind of morphing away, as far as working shifts. We've been doing some of that split shift when the cases for COVID were getting really bad. We've been kind of working ourselves away from that, as we've done some hybrid within departments to best suit departments. And as of tomorrow, we're gonna make sure we have everybody working at the site starting tomorrow. Social distancing, masks whenever you're within 6 feet of somebody, certainly still taking those precautions, but everybody's going to be physically at the same site. Some exceptions, we're trying to figure out how to handle code enforcement, because we've got Jason and Paul basically sitting back to back. So we're trying to look at some modifications within that space there. But other than that, we do hope to have everybody physically back as we had before. So hopefully numbers continue to trend down for us, as we're kind of seeing in the state. But we're taking it day by day. So that is all I have.
Right. Anyone, do you have any board or commission or committee assignments to report on tonight?
Move adjourned.
Second.
A motion and a second to adjourn. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Drive safely, Trudy.
See you Thursday.
Meeting adjourned.
Good night, everyone.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
All right.